Good afternoon. So it is around actually like 3 something p.m. We haven't had lunch yet because we ended up eating some stuff at the beach. Really nice, like don't regret it. But we're gonna eat because later, today we're gonna go to the beach again. This time not wearing bikinis or anything, just wearing clothes so we can just walk around the beach. With like our feet, having like our feet in the sand, and water kind of like brushing, and as we've been doing for mostly every day. I think there's only one day that we didn't do it, and yeah, I think it's because had already arrived very late, because I have to choose where we're going because the tide's still already kind of high, and depending on where you go you can get stuck. But the beaches, they have like every 500 meters you have an entrance, and also like exit. So at the worst case scenario, we still always have somewhere to go. But there are some specific entrances that we would rather take because like they're better. Some of them like they take longer. Some like it is more of a climb. Some you have like more of the sun kind of like burning you, or because we want to walk at the beach as much as possible. So we want to take the exits that kind of like really at the very last possible moment. But yeah, also today I was once again without my sunglasses, and I think my tan is really evening out. Yeah, it is still not perfect, but it is doing great, compared to like how it was a couple days ago. I think I might have to do the same thing tomorrow, still no sunglasses, and my nose is starting to kind of like to peel off. You can see at some points, but it's good because it's going to peel off, and then I'm gonna get tan again, so everything works out fine. But yeah, so what I wanted to talk about today actually is the fact that it is official. I'm really struggling with writing, which means that there's something not going on very well with my head. I'm not at like a good balanced spot. I'm either too here or too here. I think I'm a little bit too here. Today I almost didn't really go in the water. We didn't end up going like at the very end because we found like a good place to go in, because some of them like you have these rocks, so it's kind of dangerous, and some of the places you have like these little rocks which just they kind of like cut your feet. So I don't really like those, so having to find like a place where I like where the sand is very thin, and with water is like very visible. I can see what is going on, because ever since I had a little stung by that jellyfish, I'm kind of scared. I'm actually fearful at certain points when I'm like in the water that something's gonna come and get me. I'm waiting for my dad to arrive, because then we're both are gonna go in the water, and then I'm going to lose this fear that I'm having right now. But that is so kind of like very expected. It's not like a crazy thing to happen, but I'm kind of surprised that it happened with me, because usually I'm not really prone to this type of fear. Usually it has to be something very documented, and kind of like comprehensive. It cannot just be like one thing and then I'm scared. But it happened, and as I said, it is normal. That's pretty much expected when you get stung by a jellyfish. And the other day we found one at the beach, because I didn't get to see what it looked like, because I wasn't aware of the water. But there was one that I am supposing that that is what the one that stung me also looked like, because it's in somewhat the same region. And it is kind of like weird, because it was looking kind of like as the bottom of a bottle, or a plastic bottle, like a plastic soda bottom, but yeah, so it was kind of weird. It was really whitish, and I took pictures. I don't know where they are right now, because I haven't been taking like as many pictures as I usually do, which I think is another side effect of me being kind of a little down here. But I am still taking pictures. I'm still registering the moments, but I'm also kind of like living in the moment. I'm actually enjoying myself, because I enjoy taking pictures of things, because then you register what is happening. But also it's a way for me to kind of like really live in the moment too, because if I'm gonna take a picture, I'm gonna take a better look at that thing that I'm taking a picture of. So there is this there is like this upside. So I feel like I've been a little more distracted than usual. Like time is passing me by. Today we went with my grandpa. Tomorrow is his last day, but he's leaving in the afternoon, so he's not going to the beach. So he went the first day, and then today, which was like kind of the last day, he doesn't really like the beach so much, which it is an interesting thing. But basically, like we found like a spot. And then my mom and I, we went walking, as we usually do, towards like the other beaches. And then we came back and we were out for like an hour and 40 minutes. And to me, like if you told me it was like 40 minutes, just that, I'm like, yeah, that's how much it took. 20 minutes to go, 20 minutes to come back. Because I'm just kind of distracted, I am still like looking at things, but I feel like sometimes I'm not really looking. I'm just, my eyes are there. I'm not really seeing that, the things, I'm looking, but I'm not seeing. And that is not ideal, but I think that regardless of like this being kind of the case, I'm still healing, which is kind of, as I mentioned before, the priority for me. Like I want to live here feeling better, even if like right now I'm like but on the I'm kind of like low. I don't know how to properly express this, because it's not like I'm depressed. It is kind of like a pre-depression thing. There's like balance, and then there is like a pre-mania, and then there's pre-depression, then there's depression, and then there's mania. I feel like I am pre-depression, where I already have some of the symptoms, but it's not kind of like happening as it usually does. So which it's great, because being full-fledged depression, particularly on a holiday, like when you're on vacation, like it's not great. And yeah, I usually it doesn't really happen often for me to just be depressed when I'm on a holiday, when it's like vacations, or yeah. So because usually the scenery kind of helps. Also, I think it was a good thing that I brought my laptop for me to write, because now I have kind of like solid evidence, that I am not doing great as I possibly could. And I just want at this point to just be able to work on the novel, but like I am struggling to connect with the story at several different points. So sometimes I'm like a space here where there is room for growth. There's room for me there's more for me to just break down, and it is not really happening. Like I can't concentrate. I don't have ideas. I don't really know what to do. I'm just like looking at the text there, and I'm like, how am I gonna finish this novel if I cannot really make these connections? There's full of them, and there are still like some points here and there where I get kind of like excited that I'm writing something new, because it is also something that happens sometimes. Like you have like many new ideas, many fresh ideas, and you want to kind of focus on them and on them only, and then like you start writing, and then word count, it goes up, and then the number of pages goes up. And then you have this idea that everything is going on okay, but like not really, because it's only like those new fresh ideas that are appealing to you, not like everything. Which I need. You need to be more well-rounded if you want to kind of like finish a novel, and that is the part I'm like struggling with. I have changed medication. Not alone. My mom and I, we have changed. It's not. I just want to clarify that it is not. Just like a happy-go-lucky thing. I'm not just like doing whatever. No, like we're really talking about this. And the way that the psychiatrist from the health center, she kind of like switched the medications I was taking. We went back to where I was before. And today I took, that is this medication that I don't know what it's called in English, but in Portuguese it's called aripiprazole. It's kind of a bit of a tongue twister if you don't really know the name. Like the first times I tried to say it, it didn't turn out okay. And the thing is, like sometimes you can say the medication in a way that, like for example, the person at a drugstore kind of like understands what you're saying, but sometimes like you just say it so off that they don't even understand, and then that's a problem because you can't really communicate. And then what you're supposed to do. No, but basically I took it today. I didn't take it yesterday, and today was kind of fine, although I do think that maybe like my distractions and my because as I said, I didn't really go too much in the water, and usually I want to go, but usually when I'm like in this state, it kind of like it feels like I've set a pace, like I'm doing something. So that's why like walking, it is so easy for me to do when I'm like in this state of mind, because I'm just replicating this one action, and I keep going and going and going. But anything that breaks it, I'm kind of like, nah, I don't want to do it. And I think that going to water would break that pace. So I was like less inclined to do that. Although in the very end we did, because it's also kind of hard because you have to find like a place that is, you know, safe and that is comfortable. And I think I have my specifications. And one of the new ones is that I want to see what is happening in the water. You know, so the water has to be kind of clear. And then the place that we found last, my mom and I, like that is like a new place. So we kind of like, we know exactly where it is, and we're gonna go there because there the water is warm, not in like the way that bothers you. It's just that it isn't, you know, cold. Because, you know, like, you know, who doesn't, you know, like some cold water every once in a while, but like sometimes like you want something a little bit warmer. And it is not to, you can kind of like sit down and have water, you know, come, you know, up here. And you know, I can do my floating thing, which it is very therapeutic for me. So although like the one thing is that basically like the water was kind of like taking a little too fast, you know, to, you know, taking you to a different location. But like the whole, you know, the whole area is like that, you know, and the water is clear, so I can see what is going down, because you have a lot of like, you know, seaweed that, you know, it just comes and goes, you know, in the sea. You know, like the sea brings it to the sand, and then the sea also brings it back to the water, and then, you know, there is this synergy happening between it. And, you know, if you're kind of skittish about something touching you, like the seaweed can just, you know, be that thing. So there's been a few times where I'm just like vibing, and then suddenly I just, you know, something touches me, and it's just seaweed, but like, and because of, you know, my recent experience of getting stung, it kind of like, I was like, okay, I don't want to be here anymore. But yeah, so basically what I'm trying to say is that today my head also today, it was, in terms of like dependencies, was actually pretty good, because I stayed in one that has, you know, that is related to my writing. You know, it's a little bit more tangentially related and a little bit more self-exploratory, because basically it involved me talking a lot, you know, about myself to myself. For, you know, when, you know, I was having, you know, these moments in my head, I was just like reflecting about, you know, my life in the past and everything. Almost kind of like an interview, you know, basically kind of like interviewing myself. And, you know, like that is basically talking about reality. So not, you know, like the delusions that I have when, you know, I'm having these fantasies. So that was good. And it's also, it was kind of interesting. I think it did put some things into perspective for me, because as I mentioned, you know, yesterday, sometimes, you know, things are really getting to a certain direction where I start craving the end, and that's not where I want to be. Like I want to be here, you know, I want to enjoy myself, you know. And it's not just like right now that I'm on vacation. I also, when I come back, like I want to keep this pace going. I want to improve, because I want to work on my novel, and, you know, I want to finish it. But like right now, finishing is just a little too far ahead. You know, I have to focus more on like completing the little like gaps that I can find here and there. And as I said, I am struggling to do that, but I'm going to persist. You know, like I did make some progress, you know, just now today, you know, as we were waiting. So, you know, it is possible. You know, although I would say that some of like the progress I made, it feels very kind of like weird. Not weird, but it feels like, okay, this is not really the final product. You know, like this is kind of like, it's not connecting in a way that, you know, it feels like it is earned, or it is not. This doesn't feel like this is not how people talk. You know, that particular situation. But, you know, it's better. I kind of like realize it's better for me to just have something on the page, and then later on I come and fix it, than to like not write at all. So, you know, writing, it is kind of like the key. I found like one chapter that I'm kind of, you know, making some connections. It's already like very well structured, but, you know, there is some gaps between things. So I'm writing in those gaps. And, you know, as I said, the writing is not as good as, the quality is not as great as I usually wanted to. But, you know, I add pages, I add words to the page, and then eventually I'll come back and I'll fix it, and I'll, you know, it's going to be smooth. It's going to, you know, feel, you know, like another transition. But so far, you know, like this is where I am at. And so yeah, so positives, you know, from today. I think that despite everything, I was able to go out there and I was able to relax and to heal. You know, I don't know how to count, you know, because I feel like I like things to be kind of like numbered, you know, as in like how you know, I have like a percentage, you know, of how much, you know, healing is happening. Like that is better for me to kind of like understand. So and I'm not really sure what is happening, because I do feel good when I'm like out there doing my own thing. and you know, like things are happening. But I right now I'm like, how much, like how much did I improve today? Like how, what's the percentage? What was the percentage yesterday? What is the percentage today? And I don't really know how to quantify things, but yeah, but like it was good. And then, you know, no fantasies, you know, that is, the fantasies, they are like related to my writing tangentially, but still related. And also, like, these fantasies, they pretty much involved me acknowledging my life for what it is, you know, no embellishments, no detractions, you know, just, you know, what happened. Of course, like, there's some things that they don't have to be mentioned, but, you know, like, but it's like, I'm not, I don't know, I think that I was, you know, talking about, you know, my life, you know, the way that it happened, and it wasn't happening in a way that I was like frustrated with like what occurred, as opposed to what could have been. You know, it was just like, no, this was it, this was that, this is my experience, this is what I learned, this is, I started also talking about some of my tattoos to myself, which is kind of interesting, because there are some of them that they're more recent, and there are some that are like older, and you know, there are some of them that they're very, you know, symptomatic of the moment I was going through at that point in time. Some of the tattoos I have from like when I was 19, like no regrets here or anything, but it's just interesting for me to just see like my worldview and how like it changed from like that point to right now, you know. And it has been like a significant amount of time, like 8 years, like that is quite a lot. And I'm still alive, I'm still here, and things are working out fine, you know. They're not, there's nothing disastrous happening, because usually the disastrous things, they all happen in my head, and today, like, my brain didn't really bring me anything disastrous. It didn't really make a big deal out of like certain, you know, small issues here and there. So it was pretty good. I'm pretty happy with like how everything turned out. And so yeah, so that was that. And honestly, I don't even have like negatives, because even, you know, the whole writing thing that I'm struggling with, I was able to actually, you know, make do with what I had here just now, and I'm gonna continue doing that after, you know, this video is over. And you know, it feels great, considering how much I've been struggling the past 2 days, for me to have found kind of like a loophole, you know, somewhere where I can actually make things work out in a way that they are not everywhere else. But, and also, so you know, like also in the positives, today I haven't really had like those negative thoughts, so there's that. Oh, I think we're gonna have lunch right now. So yeah, anyways, bye.